What is your first impression of me? Do I seem amateur? Do I seem like, maybe I want to listen to the guy, maybe I don't? Are you already perusing that YouTube suggestion box? I want you to make a split judgment here, and I want you to hold that thought, and I want you to compare this impression to this. Now, has your opinion of me changed? Now that you have some more visual elements to look at, and hopefully it's a little bit more aesthetic, are you more engaged? Are you less engaged? Are you more or less likely to keep on watching? What is your opinion of me now? And this is important because in this video, I'm going to talk about how I did this, why I did this, and how and why you should do this to your YouTube studio as well. So we're going to head back to the beginning now. I'll see you at the end. We're going to start off with that 8-letter word that no one likes but nerds like me, and that's previously on research. Like any self-respecting YouTuber, I got busy on YouTube perusing channel after channel of cool YouTube backgrounds and found Kevin Shen, who has a channel dedicated to creating YouTube studios. Also shout out to Anna Arcana, who does some super cool stuff with YouTube set design. But back to Kevin, great resource, and it outlines something I didn't know too much about: color, or color if you're American. I've included a document just below on the basics of color, lighting, and a bonus on personal branding through objects of association, which we'll go through in a little bit. So let's assess this space. Now that I'm a little wiser around the subject, my first step is to figure out what I can and can't do here. Once I understand the strengths and weaknesses of the space, I can build my decisions around that. I'm in a 4.5 by 3 meter room with a usable area of about 2.5 by 3 meters. It's not a huge area, but it is still big enough for me to comfortably get myself and a little bit of background behind me. On this side, I have a whole wall of window and some curtains to block out the light. The upside is I can use natural light for this scene, which is where all of this light is coming from now. I also have some control over how much I want to come in using the curtains. The downside is different times of the day are going to have different intensities of light. And obviously at night, I don't have the option of light at all. From a color perspective, I have this yellow background. This is important as ultimately that color is going to drive my decision making for the objects I place in front of it. You may be renting and not have the option to paint your walls, so by understanding what you can't control, you can figure out how you can make the best of what you can control. Now, I do have the option of painting this wall, but I like the idea of something bright and happy and cheery, so I'm actually a little excited to see what I can do with the yellow. I did, however, give it a nice cleanup. I found a lot of YouTubers tend to paint the background a darker color, in particular blue or gray, because there's a high contrast between the skin and the background. For lighter skin types, you're going to be much more defined against a darker backdrop. For darker skin, then a lighter backdrop might be the best choice. I used an app called Adobe Capture, which makes it super easy to find the color palette from just using your phone. But you can do it yourself by just taking a photo, importing it into any paint program, and using a color picker to find all the colors in the picture. There are a host of color palette generators online you can use to create your color scheme, so once you have that base color, you're set. What we are looking for here are colors that are near to our main background color on the color wheel. This will help us create more visual harmony with our color palette. We can also use colors that are opposite the main background color for things we want to pop out more. In this case, our colors that will have more visual harmony are earthy browns, orange, white, or cream. Blue is on the opposite side of the color wheel to yellow, so anything blue is going to give a high contrast. You can already see it by the door behind me. High contrast means more separation between the two colors, which brings more structural definition between the two. When we talk about personal branding, we often think about marketing or logos or graphics design, but what I want to talk about is your ability to differentiate yourself from other YouTubers. Let's have a quick conversation about personal branding with the objects you place in your background, because some YouTubers are really good at it and some YouTubers haven't taken it into account at all, which is a shame because they have these immaculate backdrops with ambient lighting and plants coming out of the wall, and yet it doesn't say anything about them. It says nothing about the channel or who I'm looking at right now. And I think it's a missed opportunity. So if you had a board game channel, you're obviously just going to put board games all around you. And then when I come and watch the channel, I'm going to be like, okay, this person plays board games, or a movie channel. Like with DVDs and movie posters, you're going to come along and go, well, this person obviously likes movies. It's the same with you. It doesn't have to be quite that extreme. So for instance, I've got a Marshall cabinet here. Anyone watching is going to be like, oh, he plays electric guitar. And I have Pickle Rick. So Rick and Morty fans are going to go, oh, he likes Rick and Morty. Already I have a connection with my potential audience. Already I align with them on some shared interest. And people like other people who have the same interests as them. What could you place in your background that says something about you, or what your channel's about, or what you offer? So I already had some really cool artwork. I got some music gear, I got film gear, some random decor, and this Alice in Wonderland style clock. What I don't have is a shelf. So I'm going to IKEA. Now, the important thing to understand about shopping at IKEA when you are on a set design mission is that I absolutely walked out of there with more than a shelf. Show and tell time. Fake plants, because of course I did. These especially, nice color palette. Blends with the yellow, pops with the blue. Vines. Photo frames, because I do photography. And who knows, I might showcase my work. A whiteboard, because it's functional, I'll use it. An arts and crafts board. What am I going to pin to this? This really cool light. Super industrial. And it clips on. Now I also got Philips Hue lights, white ambience. They're dimmable. I can control them with my phone. A lot more expensive than your normal light bulb, but we'll get into why in a little bit. And last but not least, a shelving unit, which I'm going to go build right now. So here I am with my Marshall cab, personal branding, represent my guitarist, but also, you know, it's a nice shelf and I have nowhere else to put it. But what I like about this portion of the background is that light that's coming through, and I really want to lean into that. It's kind of got this idea of morning light coming into the window. It's happy, new beginnings, fresh, has a lot of energy to it. And I thought, how could I relate that idea to my personal brand, or have something that it says about me? And then I thought, I really like reading, and I like books, and I like learning, and there's kind of this romantic notion that as a reader, you could be in a big library, sitting in your favorite armchair, and the morning light's coming through and shining on you. And I kind of wanted to lean into that. So the next step is to grab some books. So I settled on one stack of books instead of having too much here because it kind of got a little cluttered. I went for some interesting colors there, partly to give it that sort of flash of chaos, flash of creativity, but also it matched something else I had, which is this. Just a bit of artwork. I did the best with the colors here to what books I could find, and it kind of just sort of blends it all together a bit better. And last but not least, fake vines to give that fantasy vibe. So now I'm ready for some artwork. I've got a space prepared here. Let's see if we can do something that will work with this. And I've already picked out a couple of pieces, so let's have a look. So the first one we have is this picture here. What I like about it is it has a very similar color palette to what's going on here. Might be a little bit too much. Also, the other inconvenience is that you get a lot of glare, which might end up being a problem because of the glass. I do like how subdued the colors are in comparison to what's happening in front here, so it should sit in the back there, give a bit of cohesion, but not be too much. Second one I have is the rose. As you can see, like it stands out, and it becomes quite the vocal point when you put it up there. I think it works well against the yellow backdrop, but if I was going to use it, I don't know whether it sort of works with what's happening here, because we have a lot of splash of color and this is predominantly red. So if I was going to use it, I might consider changing this up so you're using more neutral colors. Maybe I'd use some lighter reds, maybe a yellow and orange in there, just so it pulls the eye up to this, because I think if we're going to use this, that's what everyone's going to be looking at. Our third piece is artwork of waves. What I really like about this is the strong sense of place. So we have these lovers sitting on a rocky outcrop overlooking the ocean during sunrise or sunset. We now have that picture of the waves, and we've also got that morning light. So those two now back up this picture to give a strong sense of place. I also really like the colors of the teal, green, light blue, and white. Works well with this yellow backdrop here. Green's not too far away from yellow on the color spectrum, so it's not terribly high contrast. It doesn't pop out at you too much. It sort of works as a nice background. What I would probably change if I was going to use this picture is, instead of the darker green, I would use a lighter green. Now all these elements work together. The books seem a little out of place, so I would probably rethink the whole book situation and see what else I could figure out there. This is my last piece. It is a blue, it is a yellow, so it's a high contrast. It's really going to be evident for the audience to see it, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because there's a very strong story, very strong shapes. Got the lovers and the heart. It's very clear, even in the wide shot, of what is happening here, of who they are. And we've also now got this idea of lovers with this picture here, and with the books, the sense of narrative. So I actually think all these elements work together quite well. But I'd probably go back to the dark green. Rock on, welcome back to our master shot. I have my guitar up against the cabinet there. I've also got some vines creeping in. We've lost a little bit of the plastic vines coming over the cabinet. It's a bit dark, but we'll fix that with lighting in a little bit. Let's move over to the other side and see what we can do there. Sometimes you just don't have any good ideas. And I have an empty shelf, and I'm not sure what to do with it. So I'm going to jump back on the internet, and I'm going to look up some mood boards and some photography of industrial interior design and see if I can get some inspiration from that. So the main takeaways from industrial interior design is that it uses a lot of neutral colors like white, gray, and black. It uses a lot of metal and wood. It's not cluttered, it's minimalist. Objects have strong shapes or silhouettes, and it uses a lot of vintage-inspired decor. I have some objects here that are most in line with the kind of decor that is industrial interior design. So as far as neutral colors and strong shapes go, I have a lantern. I have my photo frame with a question mark in the middle, because curiosity is a strong value in this channel and for me. I have storage units ×2 that can stack on top of each other. For my vintage set piece, a 1960s tape delay. If you're not a musician, you probably don't understand what that is, but it says Oasis on here. I like to think it's the band Oasis. Baby, you're gonna be the one that saves me. The obligatory plastic vines. This guy, he's a fertility god, I think, because, you know, always bring the girls back to my YouTube studio. I was looking for brown things that I could use, and honestly, I just keep coming out with all the random musical instruments I got. So my musical genius at play there. A djembe and the giant clock. You think I forgot about this? Now let's just have a play. So I just had a play. Sometimes it's worth just experimenting. I ditched a few things. I got some old records that I have and some sort of wooden jewelry case that's just to hold them up. My microphone case that's timber, that worked well there. The fertility god, looking through the vines, ready to zap you with his fertility magic. So, I need that light. Now I've got the light from IKEA and I've clipped it onto the side of the shelving unit. I've also pointed it slightly towards the question mark because I want that to be a focal point. At the start, I mentioned how I got some dimmable lights. And the reason I did that is because of what I'm about to do. So just a refresher, that's got a dimmable light in it. And there's 2 lights just up the top there that have dimmable lights in it. So let's start with this one. I can control it on my phone, which is super handy. And here we are. So just to give an idea, at the moment that's quite bright. So I just want to take it down a little bit and just give it a soft glow. Now I can also go to a sort of bluer light, or I can go to a warmer light. So this is what's so great about dimmable lights, is you can kind of experiment with that. This one, we really just want to take it down just so you see the form of those shadows. We don't really want to see it completely. We don't want it super bright. We just want enough just so you can see the guitar here and you can see the picture. I'm just going to put it closer to the wall. See, now you have that streak coming down. It just makes it a little bit more interesting, really. That's looking pretty all right there. What do you think? I found this really cool chain. It seems like it's a drop chain that you would turn it on and off, but it's literally just a chain. This side's looking pretty cool. And I was coming into it thinking, oh my God, what am I gonna do on this side? But now this side is looking cooler than that side. So now I wanna go back to this side and see what I can do there. So that's where we are now. I'm back, I'm fresh, and I've already made a few tweaks. So what I've done with this piece of wood is I've just made sure it separates the blue and the yellow. Before there was a little bit of yellow crossing over and it just added extra lines in there. Just means that whenever I set up this camera, I'm just gonna make sure that this line is straight in between that yellow and that blue. The other thing I've done is I got rid of a shelving unit just because I wanted to get rid of something. It is quite cluttered over here. There's a lot going on visually. So I was just thinking, what don't I need? And everything else I kind of still want there. I also swapped them around. So this is on the outside. It was just a kind of a bit bulky, just it being behind here. Just opens the image out slightly. And also these leading lines are pointing towards me, the star, ha 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 ha. So for this side, I actually got a lamp, which is over here. Now I was thinking, what can I kind of put up there? First I was thinking fairy lights, and I thought, might even be cooler just to get an actual lamp. And I have a really cool lamp. It's actually on a hi-hat stand, to be quite honest. And there are silhouettes in underneath the lampshade here that when you light it up, looks really nice. It solves a couple problems. It means I've got something else that's kind of big just to put in there, and also means I've got some ambient lighting if I decide to do a nighttime shoot. So using the power of editing, let's like throw it over there. Oh, it's there. Well done, editing magic. So what I have done is I've tried to place it so there's a little bit of a gap between it and the books, and also a little bit of a gap between the heart and the rim of the shade, and it also breaks up this line here. Just adds a little bit of interest in, and it's also catching the light and giving shadow, so pronouncing that morning light there. So now they're a little bit even. In the end, I'm kind of happy with what I've got. It looks cool, so win. Couldn't help myself, I just needed to know. So I just closed all these curtains off. I've added a fill light here, so this is my main light now. And then I turned that lampshade on, and it's looking pretty cozy. Heck, I might even turn this into a poetry reading channel. Their eyes were dull, and a soft powder had fallen from the tattered wings folded. I'm sorry, okay, yep. Just remember, in the link below, there's a document full of all the information I think is most relevant to doing something like this. It also has links to other resources if you would like to go down those learning holes. So now I challenge you to do something super cool with your YouTube studio, and I look forward to seeing it out there in YouTube land. Good luck, and remember to have fun.